I want to tell you about 5 things that happened to me today and the lessons I'm learning from them. So the first one is everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. This is a quote from George Foreman or I'm not sure, Muhammad Ali, somebody. Everybody's got a plan until they're punched in the face. This morning we dropped Briley off at daycare and 30 minutes later they called us and said she was throwing up. So Katie has a really big program at school tonight. That's where she is right now with the 3 older kids. And so I turned my van around and I picked up Riley, and I've been working from home today. So I had a plan of what I was going to do, where I was going to do it, how my day was going to go today, and then essentially I got punched in the face, as it were. And the question is not are you going to get punched in the face, but the question is how are you going to respond when you're punched in the face? And I will admit, I had a really bad attitude at first. I really wanted to go to Katie's program tonight. I really didn't want to take care of a kid, Briley, who was possibly throwing up. Now, thankfully, she didn't throw up at all today. I'm good at changing poopy diapers, really messy diapers, but throw up, that's not my thing at all. So I was just really, really bothered. And at one point I said to myself, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to pick her up. My day's been, messed up a little bit. Not at all what I planned. There's an opportunity in here somewhere. I remember saying those words out loud. There's an opportunity in here somewhere, and I'm doing my best to focus on the opportunity. And, it's not that planning is not important at all. In fact, sometimes the planning before you get punched in the face is what helps you get through getting punched in the face. And so I had a list of stuff I had to do today, and I'm still getting it done because that was the plan. Those are the things I need to get done. So it's not about whether or not you're going to get punched in the face or when you're going to get punched in the face or how hard it is. It doesn't matter. What really matters is how you respond. I did not really respond very well at first, but I recognized that there was an opportunity somewhere in the day of being messed up as I saw it. So let me tell you about that. Here's the opportunity. So one of my friends and I were texting after I got home, and I told him, hey, I'm working from home today. Briley threw up. He said, well, I'm not getting lunch today because none of my guys showed up. He owns a mechanic shop down the road from us. And the thought popped in my head. I was like, he's having a rough day, and it's not even 9 o'clock. I bet it'd be encouraging if I dropped lunch off to him. Now, I've not dropped off lunch to him before. And here's the dialogue, the narrative that was going on in my head for like 20 minutes from the time that the thought popped in my head I could buy him lunch and encourage him to the time that I actually decided to call Pig on a Pie and order. So what was going through my head was, I don't know what to get him. So I texted him. He didn't text back. He was busy. I was like, well, I don't know what to get him. That was my first excuse about, not doing it. I didn't want to step out and do something out of the ordinary. But here's really the dialogue that was going in my head. I don't want to make him feel bad that I did something for him, because I might make him feel bad if I do something for him. And I thought, why is that my assumption that he would feel bad? And I realized it was complete projection from the way that I see the world by default, projecting onto him. And what I realized was my default mode is when somebody gives me something, when somebody does something for me, that I need to essentially get even with them, that they have one up on me, and I need to do something back for them. And I would feel bad if I couldn't do something back for them, because now they have one up on me. And that means that they're better than me, and I don't want people to be better than me. And so this dialogue was going back in my head. I don't want him to feel bad that I'm buying him lunch, da-da-da-da-da-da. And once I realized that that was not his story at all, but it was my story that I was projecting on him, I said, oh, that's completely my story. And I can get rid of that story. And so I decided, you know what? I don't know if he's going to feel bad or not. That doesn't matter. I don't know if he feels like he's going to need to, do something back for me to get even with me. I said, that's none of my business. I can serve him by buying him lunch. So I ordered Pig on a Pie, and I picked up 2 pizzas because I was going to bring one back to my house and drop one off for him. And then when I drove it over to his shop, I realized that he wasn't even there, and one of his guys had showed up today. And so his name was Zaid. I met Zaid, and I said, hey, Zaid, can you drop this off in Michael's office? And I said, hey, Zaid, have you had lunch yet today? He said, well, yeah, I brought my lunch. I said, well, would you like a pizza for lunch? He said, sure. So I gave him a pizza, and I dropped off a pizza for Michael. And what I realized was I got to drop lunch off for him and meet Zaid a lunch, because I stopped telling myself a story about Michael, that Michael might feel bad that I was buying him lunch, because ultimately I'm the one who has most of my life felt bad when people did things for me, because I felt like I was inferior when people did things for me. So the short one on that is giving is not a competition. When people give something to me, I want to be able to receive it with open arms and not be worried about when or how I'm going to give back to them. And when I give to people, I want to give to people from an open heart, not wondering if they're going to feel bad about it or something like that, just to give openly. I think we mirror Christ when we give openly, when we receive openly. The third thing today, the gap and the gain theory. So somebody that I know texted me a few weeks ago and asked me this question: should I tithe when I'm trying to get out of debt? And so I worked through that question with him, and because I didn't want to just tell him the answer or what I thought the answer was. I wanted him to work through what he felt the right answer was. And so I texted him today, and I said, hey, what'd you decide about tithing? And he said, well, I'm giving more than I've ever given before, but I'm not tithing 10% yet. So I texted him back, and I could tell he was critical of himself for not having gotten to 10% yet. I texted him back, and I said, hey, it sounds like you're making real practical progress on getting to your goal. He goes, yeah, I'm trying, but I'm just not there yet. And I could tell he was giving himself no credit, or very little credit, for the progress he's actually making. He's tithing more than he's ever paid before while he's getting out of debt. This is something to celebrate. And so I introduced him to the gap and the gain theory. And this is the gap and the gain theory, is that we start here, right? Life is a journey, and it's always about, not always about a goal, but we always have somewhere that we're oriented to, a direction we're headed for a certain reason. And we can either focus on how far we've gotten, or we can focus on how far we have not yet gotten. And most people by default, here's the expectation, here's the goal, and we don't always get there. And our tendency is to focus on the gap between where we are and where we want to be, instead of the gain, where we started from and where we are. And so I introduced him to this theory, this idea, the gap and the gain theory. You can either focus on the gap and always be discouraged and always be coming from a scarcity mindset that you haven't quite made it there yet, or you can focus on the gain and come from a place of abundance, a place of thankfulness. Look at what I've accomplished, and it gives you momentum, and you can see the discipline and celebrate the wins that you keep on going. So the gap and the gain. You can either operate in the gap or you can operate in the gain, and it totally determines whether or not you are frustrated in life or whether you are thankful in life. I'd rather come from a place of being thankful. By the way, hello, Philomena and Elliot. It is good to see you all on here. Let's see, what are we at? The fourth thing that happened today. I'm calling this one vulnerability and accountability. I was in my mastermind, or my book club, for entrepreneurs this afternoon, and we were talking about trust and leadership and trust. And we started talking about accountability. We started talking about commitment, and this idea about we are either trustworthy or we're not trustworthy, or we're trustworthy to a certain level. And a lot of it depends on how much we are willing or how much we're able to trust ourselves. Because if we're not able to trust ourselves, we're going to show up in a way, that's not really trustworthy. And if we show up in a way that's not trustworthy, other people aren't going to trust us. So it really starts with us. How trustworthy are we? Do we trust ourselves? So we started talking about this idea about accountability, and establishing trust with ourselves, establishing the confidence that when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And I had made the comment, I think maybe this is day 60, 61 of my daily videos. This is the longest I've ever gone in publishing something or even just writing something on a consistent basis. And so I made the comment, there's some, I'm accountable with several people about doing a daily video. And I said in the past, I've committed to in the past, when I was really struggling to write on a consistent basis, I committed to writing one word in a Google document every day. And that lasted about 10 days. In the past, I've done a daily video about Atomic Habits. And my intention was to go for 21 days. And I went for like 10 or 12 days. And then I stopped. And somebody asked the question, what shifted for you, Derek? That here you are 60 days in, still going strong, building momentum, having more fun than ever doing it, when in the past, you couldn't get past 10 or 12 days of doing it. And I really never considered that question before. But here's what I realized, was the difference now is the level of accountability. I'm very vulnerable in the accountability of doing these daily videos. See, when I was doing the other things, nobody's really holding me accountable. Nobody's really saying, hey, Derek, did you do that today? Hey, Derek, I noticed that you haven't written yet today. When are you going to do that? And to tell you the truth, I really didn't want anybody to check on me because I really didn't think that I was going to be able to make it, and I didn't want to disappoint me, and I didn't want to disappoint them. What I'm experiencing now is the level of accountability. Because if I don't post on Facebook today, there are 5 other people in the group that are doing daily videos. If I don't post today, 5 people are going to know. They're going to know. There is vulnerability and accountability, and that's made the difference. Over the past 7, I think it's 7, it might be 8 years now, my dad and I have been texting each other almost every day and talking almost every week about what we're reading in our Bibles. Now, I've not read every single day of the last 8 years, but I have read probably 97, 98% of the days in the last 8 years because there's a vulnerable level of accountability with my dad. He knows if I didn't read, he knows if I didn't text him about what I read. And what I'm seeing is there's several areas in my life where I didn't want to be vulnerable in accountability. And really, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, true accountability is vulnerable. And I didn't ask for a vulnerable level of accountability before in certain things because I really didn't believe that I could be that committed to doing it. So what I'm experiencing now in the daily videos and just the excitement of this commitment and keeping on going is the vulnerability and the willingness to be not held accountable, but being accountable with people about what I'm doing and what my commitment is. The 5th thing is I'm writing a book. This summer, so this Friday is a webinar that Danny Bauer and I are doing, Unlocking Your Creative Potential, and it's the kickoff to 90 Day Creator Challenge that we're going to run for the summer. And the whole idea of the Creator Challenge is, if for those who sign up for it, is the idea of over the course of the 90 days, doing something that you've never done before. It's about a community of collective commitment. Individually, together, we're going to make a commitment to do something, doing things we've never done before. Now, they're each going to be different, obviously, but collectively, we are committing to doing something we've never done before. Collectively, together, individually, we are committing to doing something every day to move forward towards that goal. I have started writing 3 books and not gotten very far with any of the 3 of them. And I decided over the 90 days of the summer that we're running this challenge, because Danny and I, we decided early on we're not running this challenge from a lazy boy and showing people and telling people how to do it. we're running this challenge from the front. We're leading at the front. And so Danny Bauer is a musician in Chicago, and he is organizing the largest event that he's ever played at before. It's going to be a battle of the bands with him, with his band and another band. And my challenge that I'm taking on, that I'm going to complete, is I'm going to write a book. Now, every time I thought about writing a book before, to me, it's been a 200 or 300 page book, because that's the type of book. I mean, look, I have a book right here that I just ordered today. It's called Your Future Self Will Thank You, Secrets to Self-Control from the Bible and Brain Science. And it is, let's see, it is 200 and odd pages long. Most books that you pull off of a bookshelf are 200 odd pages long. And the thought of writing a 200-page book to me is just overwhelming. But before, I would say, if I'm going to write a book, if I'm going to do something, it has to be at this level. Well, here's the cool thing. I ordered this book at the recommendation of, I think her name's Christina DuPont, the other day, Godliness Through Discipline. And look, that's how thin it is. It's like 25 pages. And I sat down to read it, and I said, my word, I could write a 25-page book. I could write an ebook. I could write a book like this that I could write that in a summer. And so instead of saying I'm going to write a book that's 200 or 300 pages long, no. It's my first book. I'm going to write a book that's 25 pages long. I'm going to small step my way into writing a 200 or 300-page book. I am an author. Deep down inside of me, I am an author. There are books inside of me. But I have made writing a book impossible before by saying I can't write a book unless it's 200 pages. I'm throwing that idea out because I made up that idea before. If I made it up, I can unmake it up. So here, I'm unmaking it up, and I'm making up the idea and the commitment that I'm going to write a 25-page book this summer. And the idea is that my daily commitment in the 90-day challenge is to write for 30 days or 30 minutes every day, or to spend 30 minutes towards getting the book published once I have written the draft and gotten it edited and stuff. So I'm writing a book. And at the end of August this year, this is really scary to say out loud, but we create our reality by speaking it. So here's my reality. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have a book published by the end of August. Before my kids start in school next summer or next year, I'm going to have a book published. And it's not going to be a 200-page book. It's going to be a 20-page book because that's where I'm starting. So those are the 5 things that happened to me today. Hey, Marianne and Mrs. Brittingham. It's good to see you on here. Mrs. Brittingham, it's been a very long time since I've seen you, back since Pennsylvania, I think. So 5 things. Everyone has a plan until they get punched. Giving is not a competition. The ability to give without expecting anything back, the ability to receive without feeling the expectation to give back. The gap and the gain theory. Uncle Pete, hello, sir. I hope you're doing well tonight. The vulnerability of accountability, and my 5th one here. I'm writing a book. And these are my notes. I scribble notes sometimes because my brain sometimes goes all kinds of different places when I get on here and talk. So I needed something to keep me focused. With that, I'm going to go check on Briley. Here's Briley. Briley joined me tonight on the baby monitor. She was she was laying here before. I put her down like 20 minutes ago and she was asleep. And then she started just crying out for her bottle. Bottle. So I'm going to go and make sure that she's okay. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.